trainer of Me So Fast in the Little Brown Jug. He's also training Filibuster Hanover and RJP. He's perennially the leading trainer in both wins and earnings in North America. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Ron Burke. I see a lot of familiar faces, but I want to let you know what the format is for our speaker series here. Just pretend that I'm Phil Donahue. Raise your hand, and I'll come over, and you can ask these guys questions about anything that's on your mind. Otherwise, I'm just going to ask them questions. We're also live streaming on the internet through our Facebook page, US Trotting, and our Twitter account at US Trotting. We'll be taking questions from there. So I'm going to get you guys started right off. Matt, you're driving Me So Fast in today's tomorrow's Little Brown Jug. Tell me what it's like to drive the horse and how he's coming into the race.
Oh, he's a nice horse. You know, he's been racing pretty good. He's really good at Tioga and Tiger breeders, and I think he's a good, he'd do a good spot for tomorrow.
You're driving Me So Fast, but you've also been driving Filibuster Hanover regularly. What was the thought process in choosing Me So Fast over Filibuster Hanover?
Oh, that was Ronnie's decision.
Ronnie's decision. All right, Ronnie, talk to us about why you chose for Matt to drive Me So Fast.
Basically, what it came down to, Filibuster is a horse that has not had a consistent driver this year. Yannick was driving him, and Matt's been driving him, but I took Yannick off because I wanted him to drive RJP in the Adios, which worked out perfect. And then RJP's was very good at the Meadowlands, but then has since slipped. And I was actually worried about when we got to the final. I didn't even realize that we weren't going to have to earn our way to the final. And if Matt was driving both of them, then I could theoretically have two horses with one driver and lose Yannick. So, I decided that to make the change. Matt's always been with Me So Fast. Leave him on Me So Fast and put Yannick back on Filibuster. And in a way, it worked out perfect because with there only being one division, I needed both drivers in both divisions.
All right. Again, if anybody has any questions, go ahead and raise your hand, and I'll head right over. Well, let's keep talking about Me So Fast here, Matt. You said that he had a good race there at Tioga. I'm looking at today's program. We'll have the past performances for the jug horses. I'm looking at Little Brown Jug Future Wagering event. Tioga Downs Empire Breeders' Classic final. Looks like you finished second there by a length, coming home 26-2. Tell us about that trip.
Yeah, he raced. The back half, I think they charted him like 52-2 or something. He was vicious that day. He raced absolutely great. He raced good in the Messenger too. I was stuck first up early with him, and down by the seasides, he's no joke. So to be first up, going to the half at Yonkers isn't the ideal trip. But he hung in good and he raced good. The track wasn't that good, but he gets around a half really good too. That's another good thing about him. And hopefully, a little luck tomorrow.
You're starting from post position 7th, Me So Fast. In the first heat, they're just racing for post positions. What do you think the strategy will be coming out of post 7 there?
We don't have 7, I don't think. I think we got 4.
Yeah, I'm looking at. See, that's the problem with looking at this thing. You got so you tell me what post position you have, and then tell me how it's going to go.
It's a good spot for them. There's some really good folks in there. I think they're gonna mix it up a little bit. Maybe we'll mix it up a little bit. I don't know. We'll see. But he's quick off the gate if I want to do that with him too. He's a good foal, and he gives me options.
And Ronnie Me So Fast coming out of the Messenger with a 4th place finish, and hasn't raced since September 2nd. Then how did he come out of that race, and then how is he looking coming into this race?
Yeah, basically he's a pretty sound horse, but it did give us a little bit of time to maybe fine-tune him soundness-wise. And with the horses now, these colts, they've raced so much this year. You don't have to worry about keeping them too tight. They're going to stay tight. But we trained them pretty fast here on Monday, and he went around the track great. So fitness-wise and health-wise, I think he's coming in as well as he could possibly be. I thought about racing him. I could have raced in Tioga on Saturday, but that's a ship, 7 hours from New Jersey north to Tioga, and then, up and back. And then hours coming here. So I just skipped it, just brought him out here and figured but we're gonna have to go 2 weeks, so we'll be ready.
All right. Again, anybody have any questions? Go ahead and raise your hand. I'll keep looking out there and head it out there to you. Let's talk, Ronnie. Let's talk about Filibuster Hanover. He was a game second there in the Pennsylvania Sire Stakes final, race time of 48-2, and then he shipped out here to Saddle Downs for the Jug Preview, where he was second by a length and a half to down by the Seaside. What kind of horse is he, and how's he coming into this race too?
When we first started this horse last year as a 2-year-old, I actually thought he was the best colt I'd had since Sweet Lou. And then last year was like just clown show. He brought out the gate, made plays, and he never really accomplished what we thought he should. So basically, we yelled at him at the end of his 2-year-old year to try to make him a little bit more concentrated on racing, less on whatever the hell else he was thinking about. And it has made a big difference this year. Beginning of the year, he wasn't that sound. He was quite early through some problems that way. But now he seemed to find himself soundness-wise, and he's coming in great. Like he's never been on a half. Again, I brought him here Monday. We trained him here. Our training center in Pennsylvania is the exact replica of this track, and he has been there. So it seems like he's getting around it great. I always figure if you can get around Chester, you can get around here. It's basically the same turns. If anything, the turns are a little bit better here than at Chester.
All right, Matt, since you've driven Filibuster Hanover too, let's talk about some of the trips he had. If we go back to Hamiltonian Day, the Cane Pace, looks like he had a hell of a trip there. He was last, but then came on strong to finish fourth by 3 1/4 lengths. Take us through that race.
Yeah, he just had a bad draw that day, and there was a lot of speed leaving him, inside of him. And I got away in the back, and they just kind of mixed it up. But when I moved him over at the top of the stretch, he was absolutely flying. I mean, he paced through the wire great. He raced super that day.
And take us through the trip then in the Pennsylvania Sire Stakes final too. It looks like he cut the mile and then he was just nipped at the wire there by Boogie Shuffle.
Yeah, I won a pretty big third quarter, but I was more worried about Huntsville than I was Boogie Shuffle. I kind of underestimated Boogie Shuffle a little bit that day. I wasn't expecting him to, have that kind of mile, and then, Huntsville was coming first up down the backside, and I just said, let's roll. I didn't really want Huntsville to get close to us, and he raced super that day. 48 at Chester's a huge mile, back at 53 and change. Last one 27 and Wally 27-2. He was absolutely phenomenal that day. And the Jug Preview, he raced great too. Followed that colt of Blake McIntosh was second over, and I moved him over at the top of the stretch, and he was pacing hard to the wire that day. He's been really good.
I believe you're referring to sports column there.
That's right.
Of course, yeah. All right, and lastly, your third starter there in the Jug, Ronnie, is RJP. Another thing I know about him there is I saw that he has to have a special bike, so he must be a heck of a big colt. Tell us about him.
Yeah, no, he's a big colt. The first couple starts were real good, and then he went, maybe he was starting to get sick, and I probably shouldn't have raced him, but I thought he was all right to race, and he raced real bad. And then I came back, and then we did a game of time, and he actually disappointed me last time he raced. I thought it was a real easy spot for him, but maybe he doesn't like to be pushed to the lead that early. So we came back, worked on it more as far as getting him over, being ill, and it seems like he's pretty much turned the corner that way. He trained great here, Monday, same thing. He's a very nice horse. He's the one that I just don't know how it works out for him unless it turns into a complete dog show up front, which the way the setup this year is with us only, 8 horses in, while it may not be great because there's not multiple divisions, it is going to be great as far as you're going to have to race every horse every step on their toes because, if you just go to the back and sit 7th and finish 7th, you know what, you're starting from the 7 hole again. So, everybody's going to have to take shots because you don't want to be starting, I don't think, outside 4 and being on outside of 3. Like, if you're going to win this race, I think you're going to need to be 1, 2, 3 in the last division because we're going to go too fast and there's not going to be ground to be made up. I honestly think that this group, that you know, Brian's, I think, are a step above, and then there's like another 3 that are in the next group, and then there's another 3. But it's close enough that everybody feels they have a shot that I think we'll go faster than we've maybe gone in the past because we're going to race every step. Like, everybody's going to give it a shot and try to race for a win, not race for check.
All right, so let's talk about those 3 steps of horses that you're talking about. So Brian Brown's pair of Down by the Seaside and Fear the Dragon, you're saying is the top class of this entrance here. Would you say that the 3 horses that you have are the next 3, or which ones are there?
No, actually, if I was dividing them into groups, I would put them 2, and then I would go Funk and Waffles, and then my 2. And I would maybe have put Boogie Shuffle in that group, but when he draws 6, now he has to overcome, you know, you got the 5 best horses inside of you, which makes it tough. And then being honest, RJP and Chip Walter, they're going to have to step their games up. Both of them are looking to do things they haven't done recently or haven't done at all in their lives, and they have the worst starting positions. But the thing is, with the first 5, you know, Funkin' Waffles is a very good horse. Like, Corey controls the race until somebody takes it from him. You know, Yannick is always aggressive, but you know, we do have to watch with Filibuster. We're not 100% sure we can go into the turn with, you know, complete abandonment. And then you know, honestly, David Miller, like, thank God for Brian, he's David Miller, because he's in a tough spot to me. I know he can't lose the 1 and the 2, so now he's getting away at best 3rd, and he has to react to what Matt and Brian do, and that's the 2 biggest questions. If them 2 leave, you know, now you got 4 horses looking for 2 spots. You know, even if Matt doesn't leave, it's not like other tracks like where we all just line up and think, here, you can park somebody and still win. So, like, you know, I think if Yannick can find the way to the lead, you know, he'll hold the lead until somebody takes it from him. He just is not going to turn somebody. Like, he'll leave them out there and, you know, make them beat them. So, in that way, I think it's going to be a good race. But that also, you know, if we get to have a 53 in a piece, then all of a sudden the back is, you know, in play, then they have chances. So that's why I think it could be a real good race. I think there's a lot of people looking for the same spots. Usually that's when you get action in the race.
So, Ronnie, when the box closed on Saturday and you found out that there were 8 horses in the jug and you had 3 of them, what were you thinking then?
Immediately, I started naming. I knew all the horses in my head who it was. The one I couldn't come up with was Chip Walter. So when I found out it was Chip Walter, then I went through my head again, and I'm like, Timmy's available. So now, you know, it's like 3 of the guys that I use the most, you know, driving my horses. So I was thrilled with how the drivers, you know, came out. And then I was just hoping for a good draw. And then, you know, as soon as the draw came out, you know, of course, when I wanted to be 1, 2, yeah, but I'll take 2, 4. You know, the 7, I give it back, but you can't, you know, you can't get them all. So I'll take what I got. I think it was a good draw. Like, too, you know, Brian's horses drew where they had a shot. Funkin' Waffles drew where he has a shot. So, you know, I honestly believe the 5 best horses drew the 1 through 5. But, you know, Boogie Shuffle's been real good. So, but like I said, he's going to have to do something he hasn't done too, like coming and pass the whole field. So I think it's going to be a great race. I think it sets up, you know, to be very aggressive, very 2 tough heats. So we'll see how it shakes out after the first heat, because that might change how the whole second heat looks too.
All right, for those of you just joining us, we're here at the USTA Speaker Series. Our first guests are driver Matt Kakaley and trainer Ron Burke. I am taking questions from the audience. If you do have any questions, go ahead and raise your hand, and I'll come over with the microphone, and you can ask your questions to these 2 superstars of harness racing. I have a question over here this time.
Ron, how long are you going to let the Togdon keep racing?
You know what, like, probably, obviously, next year I have to quit. And, you know, he still makes money for us, and that's not even what it's become now. More for now, like, I like to take him around places and race him when there's other the tracks having other big races. We took him to Northfield, they were thrilled. We took him to Freehold the other day. Like, he goes to the grandstand, people love him. You know, like, you know, once in a while I get the thing, you should retire and you should let him, like, listen, the horse is going to live to be 30 years old probably. I don't really know if he needs to just be sitting around the field for 17 years instead of 14 years. the horse loves what he does. He comes to the track every morning, jumping around, playing. So, like, if I ever thought I was embarrassing him or hurting him, I would never do it. Obviously, he's never going in a claimer. He's with us for life. So, my plan is, like, being honest, they have an off air pace at Monticello December 31st. He's sound, be at Monticello December 31st next year.
All right, I have a question right down here.
Ron, I'm curious how you felt about them doing away with the race-off and if you minded it in the past.
I'm probably the only guy that likes that kind of stuff left. I think it adds to it. I hate that at the Meadows that we did away with we took one great day of racing and made 2 good days of racing out of it. So I understand, like, we got to go to Lexington the next week. We're all going to Lexington. Most of these horses are going to be asked to race both times down there. So the horses are different than they were in years past. The horses are now lighter, they're more fragile, they're faster, but the breed has changed. We've become more thoroughbred, like, I don't know if you know what rundowns are, but like they're things that go on the back of the horse's ankles. When I even started, you never saw them because horses didn't spring that hard off the ground. Now half the horses wear them. So, the part of me, I love that when 2 or 3 horses have to go out there and go at it again. But by the same thing, I understand, I think it was going to start like affecting people not entering here. I think the 2 heats affects people, which I don't really buy because, like, I've raced the 2 heats in the Hambo, I've raced the 2 heats here. My horses, they seem like they can come out of it like, a little bit better, like it takes them to the next level. So it doesn't bother me. And I think it's so great for, like, the fans. Like, when you get to come back twice, like, you get to see them race and then an hour later, and I also think it's good for you find out who the true champions are, the horses that are true have heart. Like, if they can, get beat up and get tired and an hour later come back and still, win, to me, those are, the horses that you want to breed to or you want to, follow the rest of their careers. I think they're the step above the next tier.
I have a question all the way over here.
Hello, my name is Anders Lindqvist. I'm coming from Europe. I'm living in Paris, France, training there. And I see some races from America, see a lot of them. And I think you're too nice each other in the races, especially in Yonkers. Too much friends. It's no fun to see the races here because you're too much fun. If you go and see the races in France, it's a war. And it's get you spectaculars. If you see that how many people I was there 2 days last week in Yonkers, 35 people outside looking for the races. Boring.
You'd have to address that to Matt, because you'd be the first person that ever told me I was too nice. So that's got to be Matt.
But I want your opinion. You also can't find it too boring.
I can't stand when they put people in the first turn, and even half the time it's my horses. It's not just Yonkers, it's Hoosier, and I've been in the meetings when the judges have told them, guys, if you put them in, you better be out and rolling. It's the judge's job to enforce that. I think if the judges enforced it and you didn't give holes, I think the racing would be better. It's tough for these guys. They fly on the same plane. They fly, they all have to race with each other every day to not do it. But you know what? If they were going to get set down for 5 days, all of a sudden the holes would be shut. I agree. Our product sometimes, you see when we go 12 at Yonkers, there ain't no holes then. That's the other thing. When you have 12 horses in it, you have to hold your position better, and they do hold your position. And that's the one thing in France, you're racing bigger fields. Bigger fields leads to where position means more. If you have a 6-horse field, if you get away 5th or 6th, really doesn't make that much difference. But let's see, Matty, you're Mr. Nice Guy. You said it.
I agree, 100% that there needs to be, there's got to be more action. People aren't coming to watch what we're doing out there. But like Ronnie said, we have to race against each other every day. And it's not like it's a buddy-buddy system, but, I scratch his back, he scratches my back. It's that kind of thing, and, I do agree that we need to change that. If the judges gave us 5 days, Ronnie's right. There wouldn't be any holes. we have to do something about it, though. I agree, absolutely.
Hey guys, Dave Brower here. Just want to thank you both for taking the time. I know everybody in this tent always appreciates this series, and we thank the U.S. Trotting Association for sponsoring it. And we thank you guys for showing up to give us a little bit of your time in what is, of course, a couple of very busy days. Ronnie, I've been dying to ask you this question for a little over a month here. Has the sting of the Hambletonian disqualification worn off a little bit yet? And how happy were you to see a little bit of, revengeance that in What the Hill's effort in the Canadian Trotting Classic?
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't know if the sting will ever wear off. Like, in my heart, I feel like he, lost a moment that we may never get back again. I know how hard it is to win that race. I've been 2 years in a row, I've been second. Basically, I had came in with 2 favorites in a row and lost the race, and both times just a couple things changed. I thought I could have won the race. With him, I thought I had one of the best horses, but he wasn't in best form. And then basically, the first time he didn't come back that good. And, at that point it was like, I knew we could be 5th if we stayed the way we were, or we could just, go for broke, take the shoes off, take the trot and hobbles off. And like I told David, I'd rather be 10th than be 5th. I want to win. So it worked out perfectly. I've watched the race probably more than anybody's watched it. I've watched it from every angle. At one time we had room. Once we have room, that's our room. We're entitled to it. They said that, they found David reckless driving. Well, if you go back and watch the replay, there's 3 drivers hitting their horse with their lines loose. There's one guy with both hands in the handholds steering his horse in a straight line. So I don't see. So yeah, obviously then in coming back and winning the Canadian Trotting Derby, it's great. And it feels great. But by the same thing, it even hurts more to me now. He's a horse that won the Houghton, won the Hambo, and won the Canadian Trotting Derby. He's getting to where now he's becoming a special horse. Like, there's not a lot of horses that have done what that horse has done, and I feel that, that he's, that was his race. He won the race, and I don't believe he did anything wrong. I think the other horses were the ones moving. There was room, and then there wasn't room. Well, we went a straight line, so I'm going to stay in my pace, that we did win, and I'm being honest, I'm going to go as far as I can with it. New Jersey is like, it's a different state in that they don't really even seem to know how they handle the appeal. They're trying to tell us we have to go right to the appellate division. Well, we haven't even had a hearing, so I don't know how we have anything to appeal. So, we're going to stay at it, and it's probably going to be 3 or 4 months before this is settled. But I honestly believe at first when I was filing the appeal, I thought, I don't know if I have any chance of winning this, but I got to take a chance. The more I watch it, the more I've had other people, other judges go over and, discuss it with me, the more I believe we were in the right. And, I'm going to stay to it, so we'll see.
It was nice to see him win that race up at Mohawk last Saturday night, though. Just for all of us fans, it was certainly some comeuppance, and we know that he is on the verge of becoming a very good, if not great, horse. Just a quick question for both of you. There are a lot of people listening to this broadcast that have never been here to the Delaware County Fairgrounds. It's different from anywhere else you guys race, and you guys race everywhere. So if you would each just take a moment to say how special it is to be here, race here, be part of it, interact with the fans, and how much fun you guys have over the course of this week. Matt, you go first.
The atmosphere is like no other. There's 30,000 people or whatever. They're right on top of the track. They're cheering. They're loud. They're enthusiastic. It's a great feeling just being out on the track. And when you go behind the gate for the jug, it's like nothing you could ever imagine. Everybody's excited. They're yelling. They're loud. It's just a great race to be a part of. And when I was growing up watching it on simulcast, I always wanted to come here. Always wanted to race in the race. It's a dream come true that way. And just to come for the few days that I'm here and experience it, and the county fair, it's fun. Everything about it is fun. It's a great place, and I think any harness fan should definitely get here, no matter what.
When I first came here, being honest, like I wanted to party here before I wanted to race here even. And I don't know if like, you know, maybe the partying slipped or maybe I've slipped, but I don't think it's as wild as it used to be, but it's probably because I'm not either. So that part's great. But then like being honest, what hooked me when I came here was the first one I honestly remember was the lifetime race. And I saw like, you know, how happy the people were to win it and what like how into it everybody was. And I tell people the only other place that that I got the feeling was we raced in Savala and Elite Lock. It's the same thing where the people cheer, win or lose, for every horse. They just cheer for the spectacle of the sport. And that's the thing I think people have to realize. Come here, no matter if the horse you bet won or not, it is the best racing for one race that you're going to see all year in the Pacers. You know, the trot, the Hambo's the equivalent for us in the United States. It's going to be as good as races you're going to see. You know, it's heat racing, which I love. So if you've never come, you have to come here. It's a great place. There's not a bad view on a half-mile track that you're never far from the action. So that's the nice thing. As they ring the track, anywhere is a great seat. You're going to see action anywhere you sit.
All right, I have a question here.
Ronnie, I'm making you the czar of the Little Brown Jug. Entries for the Jug, the Jugette, and especially the ancillary Grand Circuit races, especially this year, are way, way down. I never thought I'd see the day when the standardbred 2-year-old filly pace got 3 entries, and the colt pace got 4 entries. What would you? Why is it happening? And what would you do to alleviate the situation?
I mean, I can explain the easily what happened with the standardbred races. When Chester takes the Simpson and puts it on the same week, most of the horses that race on the Grand Circuit are based out of the East Coast. The further the East Coast, well, you know, you have an option. You can either ship 1 hour to go for 30,000, or you can ship 6 to 11 hours to race for 30,000. Well, it's, you know, a business for a lot of people now, and they don't appreciate how good it is here to come to race. And then the same thing. There's 2 races tomorrow Friday at Hoosier. They're going to go for 200. There's a race in Canada that goes for 500 and 800 for the 2-year-olds. You know, it's economics. When you get done, the best ones went to the race in Canada. The next group goes to the race in Indiana. The horses that like normally would fill this card now, with all of a sudden the race at Chester, a lot of them stayed there. And being honest, I didn't stake most of mine here because I knew they would be on the East Coast and I would go to Chester. I won the standardbred, and I told the owners I have to thank them for living 20 minutes from here, because I knew they would like to come. So I was like, oh, I'll throw that colt in there too. And, you know, when the box came out and there was only 4 in, I said, wow, that worked out great. You know, so like it would be nice if that's, you know, and I hopefully John understands that, like Campbell, like that we need to get back to where the Grand Circuit is a stop. Like where, like it used to be, like where all the horses, all the people move from track to track. Now it's like we'll have 3 Grand Circuit events going on at the same time, and obviously you dilute the product because you have the same amount of horses, but you have 3 times as many races to go. So that, now the jug, to me, I don't understand. Like, you know, I look for horses to race. Like, this is the first year I'm not racing in the jugette, and I like turned over every one of my fillies trying to like make a case for any of them to enter, and mine just weren't good enough. But like my colts, if you know, honestly, RJP's not that sharp right now, but he's sharp enough. Like I want to race here. Like I'm coming, you know. So you know, it's got to be like the East Coast guys. I don't think yet they have grasped how good of a time it is and things. You know, for me and Matt, we grew up more here. You know, he's from Michigan/Florida, and I'm from, you know, 3 hours from here. I understand, like, money's great, and, like, there's other races that go for, but this race, we go for quite a bit now. but nothing is like winning this. You know, I've only cried for winning a race, and yeah, so like to me, it's a special race. I agree.
For those of you just joining us, we're here with driver Matt Kakaley and trainer Ron Burke, taking questions from the audience. Give Ron a little bit of break. I got a question for Matt here. We talked about this year's Hamiltonian, and I think it's clear that that was Ron's biggest disappointment as a trainer. So let's talk to you about what was your biggest win of your career and then the biggest disappointment of your driving career so far.
I'd say probably the biggest win was the Messenger with all bets off. The biggest disappointment, I don't know if I've had a major, obviously nothing in comparison to what happened on that day, but I don't know if I've had a really big meltdown that I can say, you know, that was like the worst day of my, you know, my career. Nothing off the top of my head. I've been pretty fortunate that way. I mean, if I really thought about it, I'm sure I could find something that I was really upset about, but, you know, nothing off the top of my head.
Yeah, I guess you'd rather not think about it then.
Yeah, right. I'd like to move on and, yeah, exactly.
All right, we were talking, Dave also asked you about the atmosphere of the race here, Matt. We're looking at the entries today and you don't have any drives in. So what you did, you came to the jug last night. How do you spend your time here? How do you spend the time here when you're not driving?
You know, I don't know what I'm going to do today. You know, take a walk around, and you know, there's a lot of people here that I race for in Ohio, and I know from Ohio because I spent a few years here. So I definitely want to go see them and hang out, and you know, I'll probably have a couple drinks or whatever. But you know, it's just take the races in and have a good day. It's going to be a beautiful day, you know, and I'll just take it in.
And we were talking beforehand, and other than Me So Fast, you also have a drive on another good horse named Seeing Eye Single. Tell us about that horse and the race that he's in tomorrow.
You know, I don't know too much about him. I know he's undefeated. I know he won the final, and I pulled up a couple of his replays yesterday. I watched the final, and I watched the race before that at Northfield just to see how he looked in around a half. And you know, he impressed me that race at Northfield. You know, he laughed, let one go, removed, let another one go, pulled a 2-hole. I mean, he raced great that day, and in the final he was first up early, and you know, he wore down a pretty good colt on the front, I thought, and you know, he looks like he's a pretty good colt.
All right, and then Ron, you mentioned Sweet Lou earlier. Now he's a stallion. Now his first crop is going to the sales this year. Who do you have your eye on? Who have you already bought? What do you think about him?
Pretty much, we've bought everyone that's been sold before privately, and you know, like at some point we're going to have to stop and we're going to like lose our minds. But like the ones I've seen, they're beautiful. They're beautiful horses. You know, I know what a good horse the horse was and what an honest horse he was. So, you know, obviously, you know, we basically decided we're going down with the ship. If he's a good sire, we're in a great spot. If we're not, you know, it's going to take a few years to recover from this. But we're, you know, we're all in on him. I think he's a, you know, a super sire on the making. He's an outcross to almost anything. You can breed him to any mare. So, you know, I'm very excited. It's the first time we've truly had one of our own horses that we broke, trained his whole career, go to sire and be, you know, well received by the public. So, you know, I'm very excited. And, you know, nothing else, they're going to be pretty. We can make a lot of riding horses out of them.
Again, taking any questions. If you raise your hand, I'll come over with the microphone. When I was back there, guys, I saw a couple people's screens, and they were all. Some people were playing the Off and Pacing app, the horse racing game that's taken the sport by storm. Do either one of you play that game?
Yeah, I'm on there. I'm nothing like Yannick though. I think he breathes that game. He's on it, you know, in between the races, and he's buying horses all day long. But you know, I'm on there, and you know, it is a little addicting. You know, for sure. But when I wake up and I got to enter 25 horses, I just think, like, how does Ronnie do this every day? Times 5.
That's basically what I said. You know, they asked me, are you going to play that racing game? I was like, I play it every day of my life. I don't need to, like, get on it. And, like, I can't get Yannick off it long enough to even discuss real races with him. And all the time I go into the paddock and I hear Yannick bitching about this horse was 3 wide and he didn't get a good trip. And I'm like, who are you talking about? He goes, oh, it's the game. I go, like, I'm tired of hearing about the game, Yannick. You know, so it must be addictive. You know, Yannick sets his alarm at 4 in the morning because there's a horse selling, and he uses his American Express to buy more coins. And I'm like, it must be addicting, but like, honestly, that's my life every day. And so I'm going to stay in real world and let Yannick control the fantasy world.
Yeah, let's talk more about that, Ronnie. You do manage a nationwide stable, and it's just pretty much just like the game. How do you use technology in order to manage this stable, and how in the world do you get it all done?
You know, I mean, number one, I have great people to help me. It's not just me. But number two, like, you couldn't have done what I'm doing now 30 years ago just because, you know, there wasn't the way to communicate that there is now, and, you know, and things like that. I mean, the best way to put it is I was in Delray this summer where I actually got 3 days off, and I went to dinner with one of my owners, and we had a horse racing at the Indiana State Fair going in the Fox Stake, and I pulled out my iPad, and the owner's wife goes, what are you doing? I go, oh, one of our trainers is going to FaceTime us, and they're going to broadcast the race for us. And the owner said, I knew you'd be the only one that would come up with a way to get to watch this race. And I was like, you know, that's the kind of things you have to do. You got to be all in. And, you know, I still love watching races. I still, you know, I go to the football game. I take my iPad with me. I pray that the service is good enough that, you know, it doesn't pixelate at the 3/4 pole and I go berserk and people think I have Tourette's, you know. So, you know, it's a lot of work, but it's a lot of fun, you know. And honestly, you know, it's been very lucrative to me and my whole family, and it's, you know, enabled us to all work together and all, you know, make a good living. So for that, I'll always be, you know, indebted to harness racing. So, you know, it was just a perfect storm. We kind of like embraced technology, you know, slots kicked in, and, you know, we showed up at all about the same time, and it's worked out great. So, you know, hopefully it'll stay, you know, like this, and maybe even get stronger where we get more people interested, and, you know, and other people can enjoy the sport like I have.
All right, we have a question right up front here.
I know you said you're all in on Sweet Lou, but what do you look for when you go to a yearling sale?
You know, number one, like, it's got to have family. You know, you got to have family. Like, breeding matters. Like, you know, yeah, you can point out, well, this horse is bred, look how good he is. Yeah, well, I can point out 900 other ones that are not. You know, so for me, breeding's number one. Number two, I look for just an athlete. You know, I want horses, you know, that look like athletes. And, you know, conformation's important because how they're going to travel, the way they travel is the better chance they're not going to touch. If they don't touch, they can travel faster, they don't make breaks. But to tell you, it's somewhat a guessing game. I train for a farm actually that not, you know, that's like 30 minutes from here. Last year, I like to do this actually. I go out and I see the babies in the field, and they had 5 babies, and I go, yeah, that one, and I'll take them, that little ratty thing, do whatever you want with it, I don't want it. Well, that's the colt that won the Ohio Sire Stake final and set a national season mark here yesterday. So, you know, of course, this year I go back to the farm. I missed the wedding. I paid double for the, you know, brother, and so I'll probably go to the funeral. So it's not an exact science. You know, the colts I bought, they all did good, but that colt was better than any of the 4 I bought into, and he was average looking at best. And I had his brother. His brother had made 400. You know, you'd have thought at least I would have gave him a chance on that this year. So, you know, this year there was another one there. He's a little midget dragon again. And I was like, yeah, I don't think so. And the farm manager said, Ronnie, you're going to make a mistake again. And I said, whatever. Put him on the truck. What's 5 or 4? You know, so at least this year, if he don't make it, I guess it'll be on me, you know. But, you know, so it's not exact. But, like, you know, the same barns tend to do well, so obviously there is some science to it. There is, you know, you just can't willy-nilly just grab any horse and do, you know, the other thing is, you know, I've become a better trotting trainer in people's eyes well, you know, it's because I can afford Muscle Hills and my people buy Muscle Hills. Like, I didn't become better. I just got better horses, you know, so it's not that hard. So that's really what, you know, we look for mostly. I want to see a good horse in front of me, but I want to also see a great horse on paper at least.
Okay, and what would your recommendations be to someone who's maybe been in the business in the past but starting up again? What kind of management tips would you have as far as horse care?
Number one, like, bottom line, you have to like pay attention to everything when it comes to the cost, because costs can get so out of control in this game so quick. And number one, if you take care of that, take care of the cost, and then take care of the horse. Just always do what's best for the horse. Don't worry that the owner's going to get mad, or that you've got a payment coming on something else, or just keep doing what's best for the horse. And in the long run, you'll end up being rewarded. You know, the things will work out. You'll make money. You know, I find myself even finding that I still fight myself to do that, because, you know, I feel bad, like an owner's having a bad month, and like a horse is like, maybe I shouldn't enter him, like he should have this week off, but I enter the horse anyway. Then the horse finishes sixth, and I'm thinking now he's having even a worse month because I should have did the right thing and gave this horse the week off. So just do what's best for the horse. When you do that, you end up being, in the end, the horses will reward you. You know, they're a pleasing animal. They want to do good for us. And don't buy that horses, most of them are lazy or don't want to do things. If they don't want to do something, there's a reason. Something hurts, something they're trying to tell you, you know, find what's wrong with me. You know, so do what's best for the horse, and, you know, pay attention to the bottom line, because I don't care how many races you win. If you don't pay attention, the debts and the money that this business can run up, it's unbelievable in a hurry.
Thank you.
All right, this will be the last question right here.
Ronnie, how important is size to you? I was just speaking to a pretty prominent horse trainer who told me, just don't show me any small horses. I'm not interested. I think, speaking personally, I would rather, all things being the same, and they never are, but I'd rather have a horse that maybe is a little on the small side, that rather than one that is what I would consider too big. How much of an influence? Obviously, you don't want a dwarf or a giant, but how much does size influence your purchases?
You know, I always go, if I could jump over them, they're too small. You know, so you know what? Like before, I was like a big horse person. Like I always lean to if bigger's better. You know, I mean, I'm 6'5". I think I'm pretty good. So, you know, that's, you know, I stayed with that. But you know what? Racing's changed. The Meadowlands isn't the way it used to be. Like that isn't where all the money is. So you don't need those big lumbering horses that could just sit in the middle of the track and go all day, but can't make left turns. So now we lean to, if we're going to make a mistake, we're going to make a mistake going smaller too, because the money's at the smaller tracks now. The horses need to be quicker. They need to be handier. And that's what you get, I think, when you go, if you lean to a small, you know, in a perfect world, I want medium to just a little bit bigger and medium. And I think, you know, those are the horses that become champions. But I agree. And the other thing, at the speed we travel, if you get horses now that are 1,200 pounds and then they muscle up and they start going over that, I don't think their legs are built to take that kind of punishment. And that's the other thing. You have horses that are superstars then for 4 to 5 starts and they break down. I honestly believe why Foiled has lasted till he's 14 is, you know, he's not that big of a horse. And until the last year or two, he was able to keep his weight down, and so that his joints and his legs have stayed perfect. You know, now, like most people and most things, you know, it's a struggle for him. You know, at 13 and 14, he's a little butterball, but, you know, I take it into account and I adjust his work. I don't work him as hard as I used to, and I accept whatever results I get from him.
All right, we're going to be back on at 10 o'clock with Brian Brown, Bruce Trogdon, and David Miller. Be sure to sign up for our prize drawings. We'll have our next prize drawing at 5 to 10. And we want to thank our guests this morning, Matt Kakaley and Ron Burke. Everybody give them a big hand.
this either. And I'll go out of this.
Is there a way to mute it?
Yeah. You're down, right?
Yeah.
Everything's down.
Let's put some table out, Rich.
Okay.
He showed it to me.
Sorry, TJ. We got it up at least.
Oh, that's fine.
It's best I can do.
Just make sure the microphone's up.
Yeah. I was trying.
It got better when you pointed it this way. It got
Okay.
better. By the end, honestly, since you was holding it closer, it
Yeah.
got better.
Ron had sent an email that said things sounded good, looked good.
I popped in and out of it, and everything was, every time I checked it.
Are you hearing the Mac? Like if I touch. Go ahead and put the phone for a second. If I touch this, are you hearing this? Yeah. But go back to the thing on him. Just make that. Yeah. Artcast. It should be over there. Yeah, here it is. See, that's showing audio coming from that.
But that's
that's-
on red, so it's not.
That's true. Here, click this. Go to capture device. Go to Scarlet.
I didn't bring power.
Okay, now that's coming up and that's green.
Okay.
So it's working.
So it's working. Now go to this and right click somehow. Yeah. Change audio. Take that out.
What? I put the link on all the bad paper.
Vacuum.
Good case.
Go ahead and take this one out.
Clotheslines.
Plug that one in.
Yeah, it's supposed to be overcast. My wishes. It's supposed to be warm tomorrow.
What?
M-A-N-Y.
Oh.
Idiots. Just kidding.
Like chicken her car, so she'd be going to carpool lane.
Not where should we go next?
Nice.
Okay, we're okay there? We got 3 mics now. I put a less sensitive one next to the speaker. I'm gonna move the speaker.
So how did everything go behind the scenes? Look good on my phone.
Having some audio troubles.
Yeah. I think you got it sorted out, but
I could hear it on my phone.
there's just weird things happening. But I don't think during the series, it was just beforehand.
Sound good on the phone.
Heart attack waiting to happen.
How long until the next one? I'm gonna change the message on the fan zone.
10 o'clock.
Okay.
Left me a voicemail. Okay. Where am I behind you?
He said cut audio.
You said what?
Cut audio.
Yeah, we did. Oh no, we didn't.
All right, we got audio.
You hook up everything to it. I use a regular monitor to hook it up to the TV, the sound and everything.
Yeah.
And putting the ROMs on are real easy because it's already formatted for the ROMs.
Yeah.
So you just put them in the folder. That's it. It's so simple. I couldn't believe it. I was like, it's really simple. I'm like, what do you mean it's really simple? I thought those things you have to use like a programmer to figure stuff out. And he said, no, basically it's a big thing now because people are putting them in cabinets and making.
Right. Where did you put your body in?
I haven't put anything in it yet because we're not done.
That's what it is. My
daughter, yeah. So I'm going to check the threshold.
What emulators do you have running on it?
I think it's the setup. Pretty much any state.
Does 64 work on it?
Really? Yeah. But you got to be careful with 64 because it's still going to be processing and everything.
Okay.
But they're like $3 for it.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry.
Well, so you get a heat sink for yours?
Yeah.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the USTA Speaker Series. I'm your host, TJ Burke. I'm the executive editor of Hoofbeats Magazine. Great to have such a huge crowd here today on a beautiful jug day. So thanks everyone for showing up. Thank you for the Ohio Harness Horsemen Association for letting us use their tent for this event and for providing the free coffee and donuts. So please help yourself to any of those. We're going to start off by doing some giveaways here. Thank you everyone who signed up for our drawings. I'm going to name a name, and then if I call your name, go ahead and over to the prize table and pick out a prize. We've got some books, some coffee mugs, some hats, and then the pink slips are free one-year subscriptions to Hoofbeats Magazine. Go ahead and, if you want one of those, fill out your name and address and hand it right back to me, and we'll get you started right away. So, and then those who did sign up today, I'll draw from these tomorrow as well if you're here for that, so you don't have to sign up when you come in tomorrow. But we'll do 5 drawings today, and then we're done for today with drawings. So our first winner today is Chris Glover. Chris Glover, are you still here? All right. Chris Glover is the winner. Winner number 2 is Rick Renwick. Rick Renwick, go ahead and pick a prize. Winner number 3 is Nelson Batesel. Kathy, you go ahead and pick it for us if you'd like. Winner number 4, Robert Kaufman. Winner number 4 then is Gordon Klein. Gordon Klein, if you're here, go ahead and pick a prize from the table over there. And then our last winner for today's drawings is Ron Moynu. How'd I do? Did I get it? What is it? Oh, that's an L. Ron Molyneux, congratulations. All right. Thanks everyone for filling these out again. We'll use these for tomorrow's prize drawings for tomorrow's sessions, where we're going to have Roger Houston and Dave Brower at 8 o'clock. And then at 9 o'clock, we'll have John Campbell, Paula Campbell, and Bill O'Donnell. But today, we've got the team behind one of the favorites in today's Little Brown Jug, Fear the Dragon. First of all, we have the trainer of Fear the Dragon, as well as Down by the Seaside, and Jugette starter Blazing Britches. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Brian Brown.
Hello. Yep. Hey, thanks for having us.
Okay. We also have the owner of Fear the Dragon here today, and also the owner and the breeder of Blazing Britches.
Owner breeder.
Owner breeder. He's a proprietor of Emerald Highlands Farm, just down the road in Mount Vernon, Ohio. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Bruce Trogdon. Lastly, we have the winner of the 2017 Little Brown Jug Wall of Fame honoree. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome David Miller. David will be with us in just a moment. He's running a little bit late, but we're going to get started right away with the team behind Fear the Dragon here. So, guys, let's start by talking about Fear the Dragon. Brian, tell us how he's coming into this race and how you feel that first heat's going to shake out for him.
I think he's coming in pretty good now. He had a few bumps in the road.
Listed as the breeder, but he bought the dam of Fear the Dragon. Armbro Cinnamon bought her full to Dragon again, which produced Fear the Dragon. So Bruce, first of all, for those of us who don't know who you are, tell us about who is Bruce Trogdon and what is Emerald Highlands Farm?
Well, I'm a newspaper publisher, horse breeder, been doing both for 42 years. We bought a farm in Mount Vernon, Ohio, back in 1982. Started out as a 30-acre place, and I kept buying up the neighbors. And by the 90s, we were 260 acres, and that's what we've been doing ever since. The horses are a corporation, that's what Emerald Highlands Farm, but I own 100% of the stock, so it's mine, but we race in the corporate stable name.
Okay, for those in the back, can you speak a little bit closer to the microphone?
Okay.
All right, and so your Emerald Highlands Farm, you bought Armbro Cinnamon at the Harrisburg sale at the Peretti Farms dispersal. What did you like about that mare when you saw her in the catalog and then saw her go through the ring?
Well, the broodmare sale, and the biggest one is at Harrisburg. We're also here at Delaware a lot of times, but the biggest broodmare sale in the country is the Harrisburg sale, and I'm there every year, right, Mary? And so for me, that's the yearling sale, and I look over everything. I spend the whole day, just like you do at a yearling sale. I really look everything over. I do all the research and the pedigrees, and it's my candy. That's my fun, and so I had looked her over real well. I look a lot of them over, and then when they come into the ring, I don't have the big dollars that some of the other buyers have, and I don't always get the one that I want. But I look everything over and make notes so that when they drop in cheap, I jump in. I've had more luck buying mares like that. I didn't have the money to spend the $250,000, but I've also done well that way. I had known that family for a while. I had watched it. I loved Mataroni is the grandmother, and I was very impressed with her. I used to go around and look at a lot of different farms. I used to travel out to the Meadowlands a lot when they had the old super sale. They still do. They used to have round trip air to the Meadowlands, and I would go out and look at all the farms when I was out there. So I was out to Peretti Farms many times, and I kind of knew their mare. Anyway, she went for $15,000. I think it was $15,000, and pulled a Dragon again, and I love Dragon again, so I bought her, and I just got lucky. Basically, by the next year, the baby that I didn't even raise, Cinnamony, turned into be Cinnamony. Great race mare. And the minute ours was born, I tell you what, I said, if this mare's going to produce foals like this, I'm in good shape.
Yeah, and Fear the Dragon entered your barn last year, and he had a lot of talent, but then ran into some issues there in September right before Lexington. Take us through his 2-year-old year.
That horse started out great. I think it was his third lifetime start. He won in 50 and a piece at the Meadows. The Meadows, that's an incredible mile there for a 2-year-old. The horse he was surprising us because he was laid back, but even training in Florida and all the way through, he always closed great. He always had pace at the end, passing horses, and I guess he just got to where he liked it. And he won his first 3 or 4. He raced here on Jug Day. He got in down by the seaside, grew outside, and set third, and Seaside went 150. Well, Dragon was just far enough back he couldn't catch him. But he actually had gained ground, and down the stretch he wasn't losing any. He was just too far back, too early to get up in the race. Went to Hoosier Park 6 days later. The horse won from the outside, $160,000 race, and 50 and a piece, like 25 and 4 out of the gate. Still got home like 26 and a piece. Went to Lexington. He raced. He had an eye infection going to Hoosier, and between Hoosier and Lexington, the eye was really bugging him. It was pouring rain that night. If you've ever been to Lexington, it's no place to be in the rain. And the horse sat in the back. He just never got going. I'm sure he just didn't feel good. We had a week of working on it. We put an eye screen on him. It was during the day. His second start, the horse raced really good. I believe he was second to Huntsville that day. So he was really good. And then that was just his last start. We didn't have him staked anymore. I wish we would have. He would have done well in the Breeders' Crown, the Governor's Cup at the end of the year. He wasn't, and I think it's helped him for this year. He got to go to the pasture early. He went to Bruce's farm. He got to gain a little weight. He came to Florida looking good and trained down. He was having some foot issues down there, but even though he was always training good, qualified great down there, and came right out of the gate and was great in every start. Like you said, he had a few bumps in the road lately, but it's not like I can tell you all summer that horse has been perfectly sound, everything just right, but it just doesn't seem to matter to it. He still is there and still keeps coming every race. So I think he'll be really good tomorrow. You know, who knows how the trip's going to work out. He drew the 3. He should get a decent position out of the gate. He can leave if that's what David wants. He generally doesn't. But when you're on the half, he may decide that's where he wants to be. David can get him to go, even though he's a little lazy leaving. He'll get him out of there if that's what he needs to do. I have all the faith in the world in David and the horse. We'll be ready to go.
Bruce, what did you think about Fear the Dragon's 2-year-old season there and then going into the winter?
Yeah, pretty much everything Brian said. I watched him. I would go down to Spring Garden Ranch in Florida where Brian trains in the winter, and I was always, with Brian and I go over the horses after he's done training, and I always said, I like that Dragon getting colt. You know, he was, every time I ever saw that horse in every training mile, he was always closing. And, you know, usually your horses will have a good day, a bad day, but I never saw that horse. He always was coming. No matter what, he liked to catch the horse in front of him, and we just sort of kept racing him that way. So we had high hopes for him. I was stunned when he won in 15 apiece as a 2-year-old at the Meadows. I didn't know he was that good. But you know, like Brian said, that eye infection, wearing that, he had to wear a fly mask down there because of the sun to protect his eye, and he couldn't hardly see, you know. So that really wasn't indicative of who he was. And I usually don't stake my 2-year-olds with the Breeders' Crown at 2. I like to quit after Lexington most of the time because I like to get out to the farm while we still have grass and everything, and that extra month makes a big difference. So that's the only reason he stopped then. And he's been a great horse for him. We love him, of course.
All right, for those of you just joining us, we're here with trainer Brian Brown. He's training down by the seaside in Fear the Dragon, tomorrow's Little Brown Jug. We're also here with owner and breeder Bruce Trogdon of Emerald Highlands Farm. He's the owner of Fear the Dragon, and then they're both the connections behind Blaze and Britches racing today in the Jugette. Brian, Bruce, give us a sense of the size of your operation. How many horses do you have racing? How many brood mares do you have? How many babies do you have running around the fields out there in Mount Burke?
Well, it started out small and kept growing as I kept adding more mares. Years ago, we actually had a stallion years ago named Bakerfield, who people in Ohio probably, you'll remember, he did real well for us. He helped us build the farm too. But we try to keep 32 mares, and every year I have to make some hard decisions to sell some, but we keep it so that we always have at least 5 acres for every horse on the ground, and we have 220 acres of really nice pasture, and we've raised a lot of nice horses there. And then it used to be I sold all of my yearlings. We sold for many years. I sold at all the sales for many years at Fazig Gibson, for quite a few years at Harrisburg, Tattersall's, and just in the last few years, we particularly always sold our colts, and I'd always keep a few fillies that I like keep for brood mares. And the last couple of years, I'm getting older, and I just said, oh, heck with it, I'm keeping some more nice ones. And thank God I decided the year of Dragon, we had some nice colts. I had a couple other nice ones, but he was one of my favorites for sure. And I just thought, oh, heck with it, I'm going to keep a few of these colts now. And I picked the right year to keep one.
Yeah, so I think small would be the wrong word for your operation, but you don't have the resources and the horsepower that a lot of other stables do. But now you've got a horse that is the #1 ranked horse in North America right now. He's won the North America Cup. He's won the Adios. I know I'm going to forget a couple of other major stakes that he's won. Every time I see you on Facebook, you're hoisting another trophy. What's it like with an operation your size to have a colt this good?
Well, I've never, like I say, I've had some nice fillies. I won the Jugette a couple of years ago. Brian did for me with Color the Virgin, who I raised. I'm not used to keeping colts, and my wife is really enjoying this trip around because there's bigger crowds, you know, when the colts race. You're on TV more. You know, it's exciting having a nice colt. So we're really enjoying that. That's a new experience. We've bred horses that have been in the jug, and I've been I think second 3 times. So I've had good horses that we raised up in there, but to actually own one, yeah, it's quite a thrill. And the biggest thing for me is I got into it as a guy that when I was a kid, I grew up, I'd go bet on the horses at Northfield Park. My newspaper business, I grew up in Northeast Ohio. We still have 9 community newspapers up in the Medina area. Started out at Northfield Park and had an old broken down 3-claimer, and then I decided I wanted to learn how to take care of it, and then that just kept growing and growing to where I started doing the foaling, the breeding, and everything. And after a while, I never bet on races anymore. I used to be, that was my thing, and I just love the farm and I love the horses. So for me to have a horse that I raise, and that includes Blazing Britches racing today, that's 3rd generation that I've bred, foaled, raised, and that's just a special thing that you can't replace that.
Yeah, I wanted you guys in the audience to get a sense of what it feels like to own such a great colt, and it's been a heck of a ride for you too. You did mention Colors Aversion. She won the Jugette. She was a heck of a race mare, and now she's a brood mare. And so we got a question from someone on the internet asking about how is Colors Aversion and how is she enjoying her new life as a brood mare.
She's doing great now. She was a fabulous looking baby, and people have seen me interviewed about Blazing Britches, which the USGA did a nice story on us the other day, talking about what a gorgeous baby she was. But the same held true with Colors Aversion. I mean, the minute she came out, her mother's roan. I mostly have that family because I like colorful horses. I've got grays and chestnuts and roans, and I like beautiful horses. And when I remember when she first popped out, I was like, oh no, she's a bay. Oh, I got to fill in, it's bay. And I wasn't more than about 5 minutes later when she stood up, and nice looking bay though, and always liked her too. So that was really special for us. We've never won the Jugette and everything, but again, with the horse that you raised and everything. So, you know, and she had some problems finally by the end of her career. She won Horse of the Year, Breeders' Crown, she did a lot of things. And when we finally got her out there, it didn't take her very long, man. She started filling out, looking like the old Colors Aversion. She looks fabulous. She loves being a brood mare. We like racing all in the Midwest. I like racing in Indiana too. We race a lot at Hoosier Park, and so we ended up breeding her to J.K. End of an Era, who's spending his first season in Indiana, because that's where she came. She came from Hoosier, and I wanted her to push that foal to be Indiana eligible. Doing real good.
Okay, again, we're with Brian Brown and Bruce Trogdon, taking any questions from the audience. Right now we're talking about Fear of the Dragon. And Brian, I'm looking at Fear of the Dragon's lines here, and he was rolling right along, and then right before the Pennsylvania Sire Stakes final, he was scratch sick. Tell us what happened there.
He really wasn't sick. We had other horses in the barn getting sick, so I had my vet go through and give, it's called Equistem. It's an immune stimulant, and it just helps them fight things off before they get it. Wow. When we gave it to Dragon, they give it back in their hips, back on the rump, and he developed 2 knots. They give it on both sides of the rump. He somehow it reacted to it, and he went out and jogged the next day, and he actually tied up where they get stiff in their muscles, and he just didn't come out of it in time to go to Chester to race. He was not sick, and then when the judges scratch him, they have 3 reasons to scratch: sick, lame, or injured. And when you scratch sick and come to Ohio to race, you have to be out 7 days. So he could have raced Saturday to Saturday, but since it was Sunday and the jug preview was Saturday, I couldn't race. We tried to get him to change it to a judge's scratch. The horse was not sick, but that's the only way they could write it down. It wasn't fair to the horse, it wasn't fair to Bruce, but that's the rules. So We had to skip. The horse came out of that relatively quick. He, like I said, before I went to Hoosier Park to qualify, horse trained a mile 54. Pulling me around there, that's a pretty good mile for any horse. And the horse did it easy. I didn't even touch him with a whip, just clucked to him. The horse was really good that day. So I expect him to be very good tomorrow.
Were there any tense moments about whether or not you would enter the jug after this happened?
Not at all. We were sure we were going to the jug preview because the horse was coming right out of that. His numbers on his SGOT were still high. The CPK is kind of the one you worry about the most. It goes up fast, comes down fast. That one hadn't come completely down to normal. So it was an easy decision not to race him because we didn't want to do any more damage and risk the chance of not being here today. The horse was healthy and ready to go at Scioto that day. The rules just wouldn't let us race.
Let's go more into what you were talking about with the CPK and the SGOT. What are those?
Those are the numbers that when you pull their blood and you run the blood test, those are the numbers that tell you if a horse has tied up. The CPK, I don't even know what the correct term is for it. Like I said, that number goes up fast, comes down fast. That number will tell you if they tied up recently, like within the day or two. If its SGOT is high and the CPK is down, that means they had tied up a while ago. It could have been several days, it could have been weeks. SGOT comes down very slow. So that's how you know when a horse tied up. When we pulled his blood, actually the first day I jogged him after we noticed these shots, we couldn't even get the harness on him. You'd go to reach back there around his rump and he just dropped his butt clear to the ground. So we got him hooked, he jogged fine, but the lines were hitting right on those two knots and he was like out of his mind. They were just hurting him. He jogged way faster than he normally jogs. I finally smartened up, got the lines off of those spots. He went another mile kind of fast. Then he slowed down and jogged like he normally does. But I think the damage was already done. That is why I think he tied up. And stress causes a horse to tie up too. So I think the knots, the jogging too fast, he was just in stress and he tied up. He's never done it before. He hasn't done it since. There's no real reason for him to tie up. So once we got the numbers back under control and the horse was healthy, like I said, he was ready to go for Scioto Downs that night. It just didn't work out.
Okay, here with trainer Brian Brown and Bruce Trogdon. Raise your hand if you have any questions. Tomorrow's going to be a hot day, and now Fear the Dragon's shown that he may or may not tie up. Is that a factor in tomorrow's race?
I don't believe at all. Since this occurred, we've kept him well hydrated. As a rule of thumb, and I don't know how true this is, but I find it kind of true in my barn, studs normally don't tie up. Geldings, some mares do a lot. The mares, there's a lot of things that contribute to it. Heat, humidity is bad. When they cycle and come into heat, they could tie up. Just there's a lot of things that go with the mare. Dehydration is one of the biggest. If your horse is dehydrated, it could be a stud. They could tie up just from being dehydrated. It stiffens the muscles up. The being hydrated just keeps you looser. I just don't believe it all. And trust me, I lay awake at nights worrying about things. This is not the one thing I worry about. It hasn't really even crossed my mind that this horse could tie up again.
And tomorrow's Little Brown Jug is a 2-heat race. There's no race off. How do you condition these two horses for heat racing? And is there any difference between what you're going to do for Down by the Seaside compared to what you're going to do for Fear the Dragon?
No, they're both pretty similar. They have different styles of racing, but I really don't train them that much different. They trained a little different this week because Dragon he qualified Wednesday. Seaside hasn't raced since the Jug preview, so he's about 12 days. So I trained him a little harder. Dragon had a lot easier week. I'm not one to be overly easy on a horse. If I'm going to get beat in a race, it's because something else is wrong, any number of things. But generally, being tight and fit is not one of them, because that's the one thing I know I can control. Now, sometimes I can overdo it. I can make them a little tired, but I don't seem to find that much. I think if you keep your horse fit, other things just seem to fall in place. So neither one, I don't worry about 2 heats for either horse. I've never trained a horse different to race 2 heats than I do 1 heat. I just think the good horses can do it. I've raced in the jug, I don't know, 3 times, jugette probably 3 times. I haven't trained them horses any different. I haven't, the next race, which we usually, if we race twice here, we skip the first week of Lexington, just because you went 2 heats and the next race is coming up. But I have not had one what we call bounce. That means they raced a huge race or a tough race, and the next week they were no good. Lost for words, raced in this race. He got beat a nose by Wiglet Jiglet. He went, whatever it was, 2.5 weeks later to Lexington, raced the best race of his life. He got beat ahead in 147.4, came first over, had the 10-hole, and he was a small horse. And it was his best race of his life. So I have not had a problem racing heats, and I haven't trained him any different than I would for a normal race.
Okay, we have questions now. Got one there and one right here.
Yeah, question for Brian. Brian, 2-year-olds. Let me back up. Go to yearlings. You're going to have a number of yearlings this year, of course. My question would be on that. How soon before you know whether they're going to make it a 2? And the biggest reason why they don't make it a 2?
The biggest reason is usually immaturity. They get sore, or they just don't seem to have that go to them. Most of the time it turns into soreness. Like I said, I'm not an easy trainer on horses. I can't compete with guys like Jimmy Tacker, Ronnie Burke, Jim Daly. There's several guys here in Ohio, let alone out of state, that I can't baby my horses and then throw them in a race and race the daylights out of them and expect them to be good. That's when they generally fall apart on them. As far as figuring out when a horse is going to be good, that's pretty much up to the horse. We've had horses. We have a horse this year named Dunwell. He was a Hanover horse we bought last November as a yearling. We loved that horse from day one. Great gaited, great looking. He just could do it so much easier in the rest. And he done everything right all the way down to qualifying. He qualified good. I was starting to get worried because he was so much better than the rest of my horses. I was afraid if he wasn't as good as I thought he was, the rest of my horses were terrible. Well, he showed he was a good horse. He hadn't lost a race. He won 4 races. He broke a bone in a hind leg. We had to quit. I've had horses like him, loved from day one. We've had horses. I have a horse racing tomorrow named Barnabas. He's a great big McCardle 3-year-old. As a 2-year-old, we had to take OCDs out of his left hind ankle. He had 2. This horse could not do anything right. He couldn't hit the pace, just looked terrible. Finally, late February, he finally started hitting the pace. In March, we could start training. He won his first 4 or 5 races. He wound up setting about his 5th lifetime start. He set a track record at Northwood. You just have to be patient enough to keep going and not just give up on a horse. And you also have to, when you have a horse like Dunwell that you think is great from day one, whatever you do, don't go fast just because he can go fast. We all love going fast, but don't do it because it's generally going to hurt the horse. If you do it too soon, you're going to hurt him.
Thanks, Brian.
You're welcome.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, we're now joined by David Miller, Hall of Fame driver. 2017 Little Brown Jug Wall of Fame honoree, going for a record number of jug wins this year. David, we're still talking about Fear the Dragon, and seeing as how we're going 2 heats, and the first heat is to determine post positions, how do you see that race setting up for your horse when the gate closes?
Well, I think it, it'll set up fine for him. We do well. There's speed on the inside of us and outside of us. He's more of a closer, and you know what? We'll just kind of feel it out. First heat there, try to get him in good position and get the job done.
I was going to say. Still taking questions from the audience. You guys can help me out here. You raise your hand. We got a question over here. We got a question over here.
My question's for you, Brian. You say you're not easy when training your horses. What is your training regimen?
Well, I don't know if I'm that much different from everybody else, but my thing is don't miss days. I hate giving the horses days off unless I want to give them a day off. Rain days, I go to Florida in the winter. If it rains too much there, it's mainly clay and sand. So there's days we can't jog. But I jog as much as I can. If I could not miss one day of jogging, I would be very happy. Training days, I try, 2-year-olds I try to train every 5 days. So one week, say I train on a Tuesday and a Saturday. The next week I'd only train on a Thursday. But they will jog all those other days. I try not to jog on Sundays, especially down there. It's not as pressing. Here, we have horses that race on Friday or off Saturday. They have to jog Sunday. We have tie-up horses jog every day. The Monday horses that race Monday jog on Sunday. I just believe in getting them out and keeping them moving. I just think even the horses that are a little sore, they stay better. If I give them too much time in between, it seems like the next time I go, they're just more stiff than if I keep them moving.
When you're training down, and just say it for you all, do you go a double header, then come back and go a third trip?
We do go double headers, but usually in the winter. I don't like to do it, especially on a day like today. To me, it would be a terrible day. I've had horses that were out of shape that, yes, we've trained them double headers in the summer, but they were really out of shape and you didn't go very fast. I don't train a 2-year-old double headers. I know other guys do. I do not. I don't know. It's just personal preference how you do things. It's worked for me. So, like I said, I don't know if I'm that much harder than Ronnie Burke or Jimmy Tacker, but I know some of the people that I've trained here with, trained in Upper Sandusky, I do train harder. In the end, we all have sore horses. I don't know if mine are any sorer than anybody else's. This is just how it worked for me. And I actually picked up ideals from Ronnie Burke, Jim Daly. I always ask other people how they're doing things and watch the people there. I've learned things from people here that might have one horse. It's always evolving in this business. Things we did 15 years ago, it's like it just doesn't even work anymore.
Why? And how many miles can you jog a day?
I jog the 2-year-olds jog 4 miles a day. The 3-year-olds and up jog 5 miles a day.
I'd like to add something to that because I've only been with Brian a few years, and we've had great luck together, and I think I've learned a lot watching Brian. I mean, I've also owned horses for a long time, and I've always was more the opposite system in my previous trainers. I'm always about easy on the horse, easy on them. I'm the breeder, I raise them, they're my kids, right? So, but when you kind of put my system in with Brian's, my horses have started winning more, and that's all because of Brian. I mean, I've raised nice horses, and we take great care of them. But Brian gets the most out of them, and so it was interesting when I started going down to Florida to watch him train. You're always learning. When I go to another farm, I'm always looking at what they do. You can learn something every day from somebody else, and trainers do that a lot. And I noticed the big thing is, I'm so old school that in the old days you'd train these horses and you just don't train fast. I mean, my first trainers always taught me speed kills, speed kills. And so I was always follow that, rule and wanted my trainers to do that. But nowadays they go so fast. And so you get, like the way I would have done it in the past or had my trainers do it, they'd show up, go a mile in 220, and then you go race against people that just trained in 152. And so are you really being nicer to your horse or not? And I kind of learned that watching Brian. Not that he trains them that hard, it's just that he trains them down to where they're going to go. He gets them ready. And I think we've always had some nice horses, but Brian's taken them to a higher level.
My question is for Brian. Going back to Dunwell, to the point that you had to scratch him at the Meadows and fractured the bone. I thought he was as impressive a 2-year-old as I've ever seen. I've seen pretty much all of them in the last 50 or so years. What did he fracture, and what's the prognosis for next year?
He fractured, has a hairline crack in the bottom of his cannon bone where it meets the top of the ankle. He's due to be re-x-rayed any time. We could have probably done it a couple days ago. It's just been too busy. He said Eli Miller's farm, spring run up by Worcester. When we get a chance, we'll get him re-x-rayed. The vet actually said give him 30 days and bring him back. Well, if we brought him back, he might have just been ready for the Breeders' Crown. We didn't want to do that to him. We think the world of this horse. I think he could be every bit as good as Seaside and Dragon. So we just didn't want to do the wrong thing and risk that chance next year. I really thought at the time he was one of the best 2-year-olds in the country. I'm not going to compare him to all the other years ago 2-year-olds. You would know better than me, but I don't like comparing to other generations because things have changed so much. Speed is so much more prevalent today.
I thought the mile at Chester early was as impressive a mile by a 2-year-old as I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And the way he did it, just
Right. He came first up that day. Timmy Teacher drove. He didn't pull his earplugs, and he actually went by David that day. And he gave him a couple taps down the stretch just to keep his mind on business when he actually got away from him. And he was well within himself that day.
Boy, time flies. We're almost out of time here. We still haven't talked about Down by the Seaside. So let's, those of you who don't know, Brian Brown trains here, so his ship to the Jug Barn is about 100 yards. We brought him here. He's coming in on a four-race win streak, set a world record here last year. What do you think?
I think he's coming in pretty good too. He did not race good in the Messenger final. He won. He was having foot trouble that week. He must have had 5 different pairs of shoes that week. We hit on in the elimination. We had the new flip-flop shoe on him. The horse was tremendous. We switched him back to a regular aluminum shoe for the final. He was good, but not as good. He just wasn't the same horse. Since he came home, I went back to those shoes, and actually in the Jug preview bit, Brian said he was dull. So we run blood, we done all the things. Everything is checked out. He's pretty good on his feet. I trained him twice with an eye hood on, just to close him up. He wears an open bridle to keep him calm. Well, I think Brian's done such a good job all summer of getting him to relax. Now I think he's too relaxed. So we switched him back. He trained great, just to liven him up. We'll go the first trip with the open bridle. And if he isn't good, whether he wins or not, Brian says he's still dull, I'll put the eye hood on the second trip. We just have to be careful because we don't want him getting too excited. Then he's going too fast and somebody will catch him, more than likely Dragon, because that's Dragon style. So we'll just have to play it by ear, but I think he's coming pretty good. I think we'll be in good shape with both horses.
All right, 2 years ago, you guys were the connections, 2 of you were the connections behind All Bets Off. So are we looking for redemption for that? And what some said was one of the best jugs ever.
It was lost for work.
Lost for work.
Yeah. Well, sure it is, but that day I was terribly disappointed. The horse raced great. David put him in the right place. He had Wiglet Jiglet where he wanted. Top of the stretch, I thought I had him beat for sure. Wiggler Jiglet came back and beat us. I was so disappointed. It took me about 3 days to want to come to the barn, sulking because I got beat. When you stop and think about how great your horse was in one of the best jugs ever, you know, instead of being disappointed, I was supposed to be happy, and it took me a while. Went to Lexington, the horse raced great, everything was good. Sure, winning this week would be, but I don't. George Teague, Montrell, Clyde are friends of mine. I hold nothing against them. Winning this week would be winning for these horses, Bruce, the owners. It would have nothing to do with getting beat 2 years ago. That's came and passed.
David, any comment there? Or you won last year, so you already made up for it. All right, we have time for one more question from the audience. If anybody has any questions, we've got one here in the middle.
This is for David. I wondered why you switched from down to the seaside to Fear the Dragon.
Well, you know, last year...
Just because he just likes me so well.
You know, last year I got to race both of them in the Sire Stakes, and they would miss their Grand Circuit races, and it worked out where I was able to drive both of them. And this year here, you know, I started them both out. Don't get me wrong, I like both horses. Both horses are great, top quality horses, you know. It was not an easy decision, but at the time, I just felt the Dragon was at the time when I chose it, he was the sharpest of the two. So.
Okay, David, we had Ron Burke here earlier, and so we talked about the Hambletonian. David was the driver of What the Hill, and when he was disqualified in place 9. What happened in the race from your point of view?
I ran into the guy. It's really a shame. I was the only one that had any horse, and you know, it was going to be tight. You know, I started moving, and it got tighter. You know, just bad circumstances. You know, you know, if I had to do it again, I had guys say, if you waited one more step, you know, if I waited one more step, I'm locked in, because they were, like I said, I was the only one that had any horse, and they knew it. So, you know, it was just bad circumstances.
All right, we appreciate you speaking about that. We don't want to end on that. So, Bruce, I got a question for you. Like you said, Fear the Dragon has won some of the top stakes already this year. But since you live so close and since this is such a prestigious race, what would it mean for Emerald Highlands Farm to win the Little Brown Jug with Fear the Dragon?
Well, no question, the jug is, since the race, that I like to win. I'm not fixated on it. I kind of learned a lot this year having a colt like that. I'm just the opposite of Brian. I don't know how he does it. I'm such an intense person that when you get a horse like Fear the Dragon, I mean, I had to learn how to survive the whole year and not, break myself out. So I've kind of been working on laying low and not, hey, I already won a bunch of races. We're good. I'll get really keyed up during the race for sure. But honestly, afterwards, no matter what happens, there'll be more jugs and everything else, and I've got myself kind of in a good frame of mind about that. Just want to try to enjoy it, and it is the jug. We're from Ohio. I just trying to relax and enjoy it, and it does make it easier. I'm glad you gave me one more chance. David's here. I feel a lot less nervous having David Miller drive my horse. Normally, I'd be calling Brian and bugging him. Hey, I don't know. I think this guy's going to leave, and this guy's going to come. I don't know. Maybe you should do this. Maybe you should do that. And Brian, but this year, now with David on there, I don't say anything about that. David knows what he did, and that's a really relaxing feeling. But I appreciate having David on. It makes my day a little more relaxing.
All right, the Delaware County Fair's leading driver has a drive in the first race, so we're going to wrap it up. Everybody give a big hand for our guests, Brian Brown, David Miller, and Bruce Crawford. Be sure to join us again tomorrow starting at 8 o'clock with Roger Houston and Dave Brown.